I've been thinking a lot lately about the Seattle Seahawks pass rush, and I think the reason why is fairly obvious. This team through 5 games has looked pretty good. They've won 4 or 5 games. They look poised to make the playoffs, but I think we all understand that in order for this team to get to where we really want them to get, we need this team to improve significantly in at least a couple of areas. And the pass rush is a place that is fairly obvious and just seems to lend itself towards significantly helping this team as the season goes along. So I've been thinking about what our pass rush could be by the end of the season, the players we're going to be adding, the the level of play of the players that we already have possibly going up. And I've been digesting it and just knocking it all around in my head, trying to figure out what else we can do because through 5 games, the pass rush has to be an area of frustration for a lot of fans, including me, who, even though we're missing a couple of guys, even though the couple of guys we have are just getting back from injury or not having a training camp or whatever it may be, it is somewhat sparse through 5 games. Now, in order to try to understand the future, I went to the past. Before I show you guys the whiteboard behind me, before I show you guys what I found over the past couple of days, I'm going to ask a question, and you guys can try to answer it before I show you the answer. All right. The golden age of Seahawks football. In my opinion, it started in 2003. That was the first year that Matt Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander made the playoffs. It was the first year that we really felt like we were building something in my lifetime. It was the first time where I felt like we were heading towards a place where we could compete for the divisional crown. We could start winning playoff games. Maybe something truly great could happen. That 2003 season was, in my opinion, the beginning of the golden age for the Seattle Seahawks. Since 2003, we've played 16 seasons. We've made the playoffs 12 times. We've had 12 winning records. We've won something like 13 total playoff games. We've played in 3 Super Bowls. We've won 1 Super Bowl. We've only lost 1 home playoff game. We've had a league MVP. We've had the best offensive line in football. We've seen the best defense in football 4 times in a row. It's been a great run. Only a few franchises in the NFL can say they've done more from 2003 to present day than the Seattle Seahawks. So my question to you is, which of those 16 teams, the Seahawks from 2003 through now, do you think had the most sacks? I'll tell you this much, only one team over that 16-year run got to 50 regular season sacks. Only one. And then I'll add a follow-up question. Which team do you think was second in sacks? Now, you know that a ton of people in their minds just thought, oh, it must be 2013. That was the best defense in franchise history, one of the best defenses ever. Maybe you thought it was 2016 because that was the one year we had a high-level Frank Clark, high-level Cliff Averill, and high-level Michael Bennett. Maybe you thought it was even last year because Clark and Reed both had career years. And those would all be decent answers, but they would all be wrong for both questions. And this might surprise some of you if you haven't looked this up before. It did surprise me when I did this research, but none of the Pete Carroll teams achieved the high mark for sacks for this franchise over the last 16 seasons. So let's go to the whiteboard. Oop, excuse me. All right. This represents roughly, I want to say roughly, I'm doing the best I can with the numbers that I have, the pass rush capabilities of every Seahawks team since 2003. And the team that accumulated the most sacks was not a Pete Carroll team. It was not a #1 defense. It was not even a top 5 defense. The 2005 Seattle Seahawks accumulated 50 sacks over 16 regular season games. That is more than the 2013 team, which might be the greatest defense in NFL history. More than the 2016 team, more than the 2018 team. It's actually not even all that close. And second place, by the way, goes to the 2007 Seattle Seahawks. They got to 45. Carroll's high water mark remains 44 from the Super Bowl winning season. So that's kind of weird, right? The 2005 defense, not only did it not have a stud pass rusher, not only did it not really have any stud players, period, it wasn't even a great defense. It was ranked like 16th in yards allowed. It was right near the middle of the league. They did pretty good with points, but it was not an elite defense. That team was associated with Shaun Alexander, Matt Hasselbeck, Walter Jones, Steve Hutchinson, and you would have to get that far down the list before you could get to any defensive players that you would say were contributing as much as those guys to victories. Like Lofa Tatupu, a rookie middle linebacker, may have been our best player in 2005 on defense. So how did this happen? I was really trying to understand this because I feel like there's something important and some meaningful lesson that we can pull from the fact that it was the Mike Holmgren Seahawks 2 times who achieved elite sack numbers. Not any of the Pete Carroll defenses that we know are much better. Don't get me wrong. Those Pete Carroll defenses put the Mike Holmgren defenses to shame. But why did this team get to the quarterback more? Why did this team get to the quarterback more? So I was trying to understand it. And first of all, I do want to say that these defenses under Pete Carroll, especially over the last 4 full seasons, maybe you could say even all the way back to 2013 or even 2012, they're not getting the sacks necessarily, but they are hitting the quarterback an awful lot. Like back in 2017, which was a year where I actually felt the defense was a little disappointing, we hit the quarterback a whopping 111 times. And I understand sacks only tell part of the story when you're talking about pressuring a quarterback. There's hits, there's raw pressures, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Sacks only tell a part of the picture, but it's still strange that pass rushes that featured Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill and Chris Clemens and Frank Clark, and you could even throw Bruce Irvin in there, and last year Jerron Reed, none of those pass rushes can get to 50 sacks, but this one did. Now, who were the pass rushers on this 2005 team? Does anybody remember who was our leading sacker in 2005? The answer is Bryce Fisher, who had one more good year in his career, and he was never really much of a sack artist again. He had 9 sacks that year. We had Marcus Tubbs. He had like 7.5 or 7 or something. Leroy Hill had like 7.5 blitzing from the linebacker spot. It was a stable of pass rushers who were by no means stud pass rushers. These were just guys. And if you were to look at the studs that the Pete Carroll defenses have had rushing the passer, it's really hard to understand how it was this team that got to the quarterback 50 times. So I dug down deep into it. So first of all, the 2007 team is actually kind of self-explanatory. The 2007 Seahawks had an incredible stable of pass rushers. We had Patrick Kearney, one of the best years of his career, 15.5 sacks, all pro, all world defensive end. Julian Peterson, 10 sacks. And Daryl Tapp off the bench, he had like 7.5 or something. But that was an extremely talented core of pass rushers. It makes sense that they would get to a very high number. So I'm trying to figure out what it is for this 2005 team. And the only thing I can come back to is that the defense was routinely being put in good situations. They are being put in situations that the Pete Carroll defenses, despite the fact that they're much better, are never being put in. What do I mean by that? This 2005 Seahawks offense was number 1 in the league in points and yards, I think. Maybe they were number 2 in yards, but they were probably the best offense in football. Shaun Alexander had his best season, won MVP. Matt Hasselbeck made the Pro Bowl. We lost a few receivers as the season went on. We were working with like Joe Jaravicius and DJ Hackett, but they found a way to make it work. Maybe it wasn't DJ Hackett that year. I'm not sure. But that was an incredibly good offense. We had an offensive line that was invincible for a huge part of the season. We could grind out first downs. We could convert on third down, and we stayed on the field. So in 2005, you had a slew of pass rushers who were not great. Bryce Fisher is not a great pass rusher. Leroy Hill is not a great pass rusher. Marcus Tubbs, obviously not a great pass rusher. Rocky Bernard, he was a nice pass rusher, but he's no Warren Sapp. He's no Michael Strahan. But these guys, they got to sit on the bench for play after play after play after play. They got to watch the offense grind out first downs, grind out scoring drives, grind out touchdowns. And when they got in the game, they were fresh. And this might be even more important in my opinion, they were playing a team that was down by a lot of points because we were scoring early and scoring often. And they needed to pass because they needed to keep up with us. So they would take the field, they would feel fresh, they would feel good, and they would know that the other team would be looking to air it out. So that stable of mediocre pass rushers, mediocre at best, is able to play with a firecracker coming out of their butt. That's what it is to me, because I went game by game. Now, we did have one game, actually our season high in sacks that year was 5 against the Cowboys in a defensive struggle. I'll give them that. That was a game where we were playing against a terrible offensive line, and the quarterback was Drew Bledsoe, so of course you're going to get a lot of sacks no matter what. But the other games where we had a lot of sacks, 4 against the Rams, the offense put up 37 points. We had 4 against the Cardinals, offense put up 33 points. 4 against the 49ers, offense put up 27 points. I actually remember watching this game, by the way. We were ahead by a huge margin the whole way, and then the Niners almost came back and tied the game with a 2-point conversion, so they were playing from behind the whole way. 4 sacks against an Eagles team that had just quit, 42-0. Eagles playing from behind the whole game. 4 sacks against the Niners, 41-3 was the final score of that game. So that's another game where quickly the other team just realizes we got to pass, we got to pass, we got to pass, and hopefully something good happens, but we don't have time and we don't have the luxury of being able to run the ball. And that pass rush was really consistent that year too. We had one game all year with no sacks. It was a game in Tennessee where, by the way, we played from behind almost that whole game. I remember, I think we took a 10-point deficit into the fourth quarter and then came back and won. And if you look at a couple of the games we lost, those were some of the games where we only had 2 sacks, or in one case 3 sacks. So the pass rush was kind of there every week, and my theory is that a big reason why it was able to excel despite not having the best pass rushers is because they were being put in good situations to rush the passer. The 2007 team, I also wanted to look at them as well. They were a lot more inconsistent. They had a 7-sack game, a 6-sack game, and a couple of 3 5-sack games, and then they had 4 games without a sack. But once again, we're seeing a similar thing. The offense was not as good, so they weren't consistently put in those good situations. But the 7-sack game was against the Rams, a game that the Seahawks won 33-6. So, you put the Rams in a situation where they're behind by so much, they got to keep passing. 6 sacks against the 49ers, 23-3 was the final score of that game. 5 sacks against the Buccaneers, 20-6. We took a lead at halftime and never relinquished it. There was a Bears game where we had 5 sacks. I remember we pretty much had a lead the whole game. It was a competitive game, but we held the lead throughout. Arizona Cardinals, we won 42-21, and we had 5 sacks in that game, forcing, I think it was Matt Leinart at the time, to play from behind, and good things happened. So that team undeniably had a lot of talent at the pass rush position, defensive end, linebacker, defensive tackle. That team was special. I get that. But I think the answer is, after really looking at all this, we put the Mike Holmgren Seahawks put their pass rushers in a position to excel. Even the 2006 team, which had one good pass rusher, Julian Peterson, the only guy on that team who had a lot of sacks was Julian Peterson. That team actually got to the quarterback a lot. And I think it was because the offense was just better. The offense was better at scoring early. The offense was better at putting up points. The offense was just playing better at being able to put their guys in better situations. So if you go down the list and you look post Mike Holmgren, you know, the Jim Moore year 28, which is just sad, although we did hit the quarterback quite a bit. Fancy that. Um, Pete Carroll takes over, and in 2010, we get a good year from Chris Clemens and Raheem Brock. Then we lose Brock, and it goes back down. And then we get Bruce Irvin in 2012. And then we see a slew of years where the pass rush has been good. The Super Bowl winning year, 44 sacks and 99 hits on the quarterback. Next year, it regresses a little bit, down to 37. Year after that was Frank Clark's rookie year. We go to 37 as well. 42 in 2016. 39 in 2017, 43 last year, headed, of course, by the Clark and Reed duo. And these are good numbers. A couple of these years, we were near the top of the league in sacks. You know, there were only 3 or 4 teams that had more sacks than the Seahawks in like 2013, I think. But the talent that we have at end, and I'll say even defensive tackle, is so far beyond what we had in, say, 2005. It's just weird that we don't get to the quarterback as often. And to me, it is because the Pete Carroll Seahawks have not done a good job of scoring early in games and putting teams in a situation where they know they have to pass. And we know they have to pass. That's actually the most important part. So far in 2019, by the way, these numbers don't mean anything. Ons has only been here for 3 games. Clowney showed up out of shape. Reed is still not on the field and won't be for another couple weeks. But we're not going to know what this pass rush really is until after the bye week in November, excuse me. But so far, we are on track to put up 32 sacks and 58 hits on the quarterback, which that hit number is the lowest that the Seahawks have ever posted in the era where that stat is actually tracked. I cannot find quarterback hit data back before 2006, which sucks, by the way. If anybody out there knows where to find that, let me know. I would appreciate it. But here's my thing. I don't think this Seahawks team is going to get to 50 sacks. I think that obviously we've started a little slow. We're on pace for 32 right now. We're averaging 2 a game. That's not going to cut it. We would need to go on a crazy run over the next few months in order to actually get there. I'm not expecting this team to get to like 120 quarterback hits, but I will say this: when December rolls around and we're playing the last 4 games of the regular season, last 5 games, and Reed is going at 100%, Clowney, Anza, Jefferson, Rasheem Green, Brandon Jackson, whatever we get out of LJ Collier, which at this point might be nothing, that stable of pass rushers should be as good as any Seahawks pass rush over this golden era of Seahawks football. Maybe it's not as good as 2007 because we had Patrick Kearney, who was an All-Pro. He was maybe the best pass rusher in the league in 2007. I don't know. I'd have to look. But I think that the best thing we can do for our pass rush is to open up the offense from the start of the game, start games strong, go down the field, put up points on the opening drive of games, and put teams in a position where we know they have to pass the ball. Against the Rams, we were so close to doing this. Thursday night, so close. 14-6, we got the ball at the 30-yard line, 4th and inches with like 2 minutes left in the half. We go for it, we convert, we drive down, we score a touchdown, leave not enough time for the Rams to drive down on their own. It's 21-6 at halftime. The Rams receive the ball, and they've got 2 quarters left. They're down 15 points, and they're thinking, we need to score and score quickly. This defense is not showing us that they're going to be able to consistently stop this Seahawks team. We need to put up some points now. They're going to go into pass every down mode. They're going to go into a mode where they're not even pretending that they're going to run the ball, and we're going to know that. And I think we could have seen a very different pass rush in the second half of that Rams game if we had done that, but no. We go into halftime up 1, and the Rams get the ball, drive right down, score. The whole playbook's open to them for the whole rest of the game because we were never ahead by more than one score or behind by one score, except for maybe the last two drives when they were racing against the clock. But after really looking at it, after really drilling down into the pass rushes we've had over the years, since our team has been credible, I think the answer is the best defense or the best pass rush is a good offense. So many of the best pass rush games in Seahawks history have come in games where the offense just flattened the other team. And if we do that, which is something we have only really done once in the Pete Carroll era, the second half of 2015, that was the one time when the offense was really just firing. I think that we can start to see the pass rush results that Mike Holmgren was getting. So yeah, I guess this turned into another argument for passing the ball more and opening up the offense and letting Wilson do the work, but I don't know how else to explain it, guys. This 2005 team did not have a single superstar pass rusher, and no other Seahawks team we have ever had has gotten to 50 sacks. Not in this era. Has to mean something. All right. I didn't want this video to go this long, but I think this is really important because if the pass rush does not pick it up later on, guys, this team is not going to get as far as we want it to. We want this team to win a Super Bowl. It's not going to happen with this piddling little pass rush. And I don't think we can just say, oh, Jarron Reed's going to get back and fix everything. No, I very much doubt that. I very much don't think that Jarron Reed is Aaron Donald and is going to become a superstar pass rusher by himself. The offense needs to put the pass rush in good situations. In so many games over the last few years especially, we play from behind, we play close games, we try to win it with our offense in the fourth, we come from behind. No wonder we can't get sacks. We got to worry about playing the run. And if you look at the two games this year where the pass rush showed up, because in 3 games they didn't. In the 2 games where the pass rush showed up, it was the Bengals, whose game plan was basically just completely abandon the run from the start and just pass the ball 50 times. And the Cardinals, who we took a 20-3 lead on in the second quarter and forced them into pass or die mode. Got to be something there, guys. Got to be something there. All right, I'm out. Digest this. Let me know what you think. Peace. Go Hawks. I'll be making a pregame video when it's time for me to make a pregame video. But we got to beat them Browns, don't we? Especially after what we saw tonight. All right, see ya.